Well, here we are again with our friend Chiron Yeng over in Malaysia. Hi, Chiron. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me again.
We are so excited, and we are here talking about energetic influences for the month of May. So let's just get right to it. Let's just chat about, hey, what's going on energetically in the cosmos, and also what energy patterns are coming onto the planet that we recognize. And I know it's a big time for everybody right now. How you doing over there, Chiron?
Doing great. There's so much shifts happening. I mean, we can't talk about month by month, not talking about the previous months because astrology happens in cycles, and it's very interesting that old cycles in January and February when the retrograde seasons was at a peak, it's coming back, influencing us in April and May. So it's like retracing our steps. And then as well, finding new enthusiasm and hope about the new future that we're trying to create. So I guess, a lot of shifting is happening in people's lives where like abrupt change has to happen and we are forced to pivot, we are forced to adapt. And I think, coming back to the whole year's theme of sleep stream, it's really all about realignment.
Absolutely, totally feel that. How you do you feel that, Tom?
Oh, I feel it.
And I know too, we often share. So, in this episode, we share the astrology and we do share an energy calendar that Tom and I work with through the Way Shores College. And this energy calendar really is about seven different energies that flow onto the earth at different times of the month. And so, recognizing, and also it has a theme to each month. So I want to kind of share with that and just, get everyone to kind of tune into the feeling of what May is going to be. And the key word of May is the word of vital,
Vital.
Vital. What does vital even mean?
Well, what vital means to me is like important. It also means that I need it. It's a vital thing. What also there's another definition of that makes me think of vitality and being having everything I what I absolutely need. That kind of a. I guess it's that kind of a thing.
Well, it's
It's funny. I
interesting. Yeah.
looked at it as vitality, but actually it's vital. The word is vital.
What came,
You
what
know.
popped in my mind immediately was taking my vitals. Like, am I alive?
Hmm.
Oh,
That's what came to me first.
the
And blood,
important
and blood.
signs, the key things.
And blood,
It's
like blood,
vital.
vital going through my system. What about you, Chiron? What do you pick up for the word vital
I
energetically?
mean, I obviously gonna look at this from the astrological perspective, right? And we are stepping into the Taurus season. And Taurus is all about vitality. It's all about life. It's about,
Ooh.
stepping into the middle of spring. And Taurus is when things will start to bloom. And this is why it's associated with beauty. It's associated with, um, the sustenance of life. And, what came out for me is because, not the vital as well reminds me of the fixed signs, right? Not just Taurus, right? Taurus is one of the fixed signs, and Earth, fixed Earth sign. And then, of course, there's Mars in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius, creating a T square at the end of April and moving into May is really a beautiful time. And to look at Taurus, we got to look at Venus. And what's really beautiful about the first day of May is that Venus finally, stepping out of her retrograde cycle, is starting to move forward again, and is forming this really beautiful conjunction with Neptune as she ingress into Aries. Right, so that's a beautiful thing because there was this previous cycles in February 3rd and March 28th. That's where all this conjunction happens. So it's a time of a little bit of a reflection in May, in the beginning of May, to for us to really understand the theme a little bit better. And I guess, just for me personally, it's just a form of rebirth, shedding old identities and stepping into a new one.
Well, what's interesting is there was a day when I wish I had my old calendar in front of me because usually I make notes, but there was a day last this in April when Venus did something and it was a shit show day. I'm telling you, like it was the worst energy, like so much was stirring. And I was like, I don't know what, and maybe some people can't relate to with the planets and what they feel like, but I've told you before, Chiron, that like that Venus transit in front of the sun back in June 6th, 2012, that was, it like lit my whole body up. So something about Venus just like it's really gets into my whole being.
Some of the
Yeah,
suggestions for vital, we're nailing it because it says suggestions fundamental, vibrant, key, essential, and dynamic.
As the Earth's crust shifts and changes, our lives do the same. One way to maneuver through the small and large moments that shake us to the core is by reviving your connection to spirit, gathering ways to cleanse your energy field, embracing spiritual awarenesses to give you a bigger picture, and knowing that you are not alone on your journey can be a great support. The Soul Quake Survival Guidebook is a great companion to meet you where you're at and support reviving your connection to spirit in earth-shaking times. Get your copy today through Amazon worldwide in paperback, ebook, or in audio, and begin embracing more clarity, inner peace, and enthusiasm for your life and what you've come to do.
mm, yeah, Venus is really all about embodiment, and when it's connected to Neptune, which is a spirit, it's a time to bring spirit and matter together, meaning what we call our dreams and our ideals with what's practical, and because Venus is also associated with money and resources, and this is where the whole retrograde season, and it's connected to Saturn in the past couple of weeks. There's all these tariff wars going, right? And I think this is going to exacerbate even further and eventually a conclusion, with a clear winner and a loser. And we'll see, like, how are we actually managing our finances in this space and time in during this month?
Right, right. Yeah, that's a big thing. And it's also obviously, affecting the world, right? So it's not just like it's not just America. So
Nope, it's everywhere.
yeah, it's really
Or it's
crazy.
global. That's the Neptune part. It's everywhere.
Right.
Everyone's
Right.
affected.
Yeah, like every single, I think the countries are coming together and it's like, what are we all going to do, right?
100%. Yeah, and what the leaders are doing, and when just to bring this up, a little bit further, Saturn will ingress to Aries as well in the 0 degrees at the end of May, specifically May 26, 27, or during that time. And that there might be a more clear conclusion when the ingress hits Aries, and just be prepared for new legislation, new pressures from the government. And the thing is that we have a choice. We can either feel like this is a shit show and then we just want to drown in this drama, or
Mhm.
we look at this thing and then rise above it and do what we can creatively. There's a saying that we don't just work around things, we take things as they are and we move through it, and then rise into a new sense of a resilience, right? I think Saturn is such a, what do you call it, misunderstood planet, because it usually brings downfalls and restriction and limitations. But in those restriction, limitations, crises, and downfalls, it's a time where we're most creative
Mhm.
to get to where we want to go. So this could be a good thing.
Yeah, and I guess with talking about the all that's going on, it back to the keyword of vital and that feeling of like what we talked about, the vitals of our existence, and that being vibrant and being alive, and really feeling that you're fulfilled maybe in whatever you're doing. And so, and being in Taurus, and then we can actually go through probably the month, and just kind of tune into like some of the week by week, which we kind of normally do to give some insights. So you want to start with like the first week? Is there like a new moon or full moon coming up, or?
Um, yeah, the new moon that comes up is May 26th, right? And then I think the better way to really reflect on this is to go from a macro scale into a micro scale and really just looking through everything that is happening. First and foremost, I just want to mention that, as we mentioned, there's a lot of Taurus happening, right?
Mhm.
So the first week is really the highlight of it, is really Venus entering Aries and Venus and Neptune coming together. I feel like, during the first week we can meet a lot of people that we need to meet. There can be potential collaboration, potential new beginnings, new business ventures, and also perhaps, time where we meet our soulmates and things like that can come through if we are open and if we are prepared every single day. Now, the thing is that we have to understand that we shouldn't be using these energies to make decisions in a sense where we shouldn't plan our lives around it. We should plan our lives the way we want, and then we use these energies to make our plans work.
Oh,
I
You see
like
how
that.
this is such a how such a different concept that I'm playing with my life, because if we try to make decisions based on the energies that's happening, then we will never ever get to where we want to go, and we are
mm,
just avoiding things, right? But what if we can just set the plan and set an intention to the universe, and this is how we want things to go, and this is what we want, and with the whole Venus Neptune time, it's a great time to dream the life that we want to have and put it into reality. And at the same time, Mercury is in Aries, Mars is in Leo, Sun is in Taurus. We just want to build, we just want to get things done. So the first week is not just dreaming but getting things done. And if the energies are not favorable for you, then move through it, learn from it, some feedback, get some alignment. But basically the first week, I just want to name it and conclude it that it's really about taking action. There's a lot of spring energy to the first week.
We both look at each other because we've got the calendar in front of us, and the first to the fourth is literally action energy.
There you
And
go.
and so like you're saying, Chiron, it is really important that, these are just like, the energetic influences that we have found for ourselves to be very profound in working with on a regular basis. And so in recognizing, like you're saying, of what is going on in the cosmos, and then within this action energy that's going to be flowing onto the planet at that time, it's a great combination. Don't you agree, Tom?
yeah, because it's a time to be directed and moving, a time to be alert, and accomplishment with fulfillment. And as I often say, I love action because I know things are going to get done. And it's easy to move through projects. Sometimes the big projects that, let's say, I have all kinds of things to file. I find when I'm in action energy, that moves really quickly. Those are just some of the things I've noticed.
Yeah.
Or plans come to fruition, people start to take action. Things move forward.
Yeah, it's definitely a great time to start projects, that we have been put behind, put it out, execute it, do things imperfectly, enjoy the chaos of it. Because if we are sitting there and thinking about things, nothing's gonna happen. This
Yeah.
is definitely a time to get things done and not having all the plans laid out yet. But perhaps the first step is enough.
I
Yeah.
totally agree.
Well, along those lines is it's not usually a time for like long meetings. It's a time to have a meeting, get moving, get things done that's what I found anyway.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It's one of those, like, well, it's action. I
yeah,
mean, you know,
there's a lot of backing to get
a
things done
lot of backing. Yeah, and
and move into action.
and it's a faster energy. So it's like really, there's just, yeah, just get her done. But also it can even be the spiritual part. So like, maybe something might manifest that in a very quick way that you've been wanting to manifest for some time now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think speed will pick up, the following week, when Mercury goes into Taurus in May 11th. It's will be squaring the Mars and Pluto. So again, we have to look at previous cycle because Mars and Pluto has been dancing with one another since last October, November-ish. And it has been doing these three passes. In the late April, that was the third pass. So it almost as if a lot of people having a new sense of identity and a new sense of direction and where they want to go. And with Mercury squaring these two planets in May 11, it's significant in a sense where perhaps this is where we see the fruits of our efforts, right? So the manifestation can come through, but like I said, this is not a 1 day, 2 day thing. It's a preparation of months and months before, and all of this is leading up to this time, and it will probably lead up all the way to whatever that we do this month is going to lead up to what January of 2026 when Mars and the Sun comes into place of conjunction again, and that's when some sense of credibility because the conjunction is going to be in Capricorn, right? This is when I say when I look ahead and I can understand what's going on now. So basically, some level of credibility and recognition can come through if we actually really put down the work, regardless of the perfection of the timing or energy. Just go out and do it.
Oh, I think I really love what you're saying because it's just like, the calendars and the energies and everything. It's like it's just an accumulation. And it's one step after another step. So it's just like life, right? Like, the fact that I'm here today doing this in this moment, and then tomorrow it's another thing. And it's like it's just unfolds and unfolds and unfolds.
So
Yeah,
what do we got
100%.
next?
The what?
What
Yeah,
do
I
we
just
got
want to
next?
touch on that a little bit because whatever that happened this month was a fruition of what happened a couple months ago, right? So it's not, astrology is not just what happened during now, it's just what unfolded with your efforts many, many weeks ago, right? And it's always like it's like watching a Netflix series that doesn't end.
Mhm.
A Groundhog Day kind of thing.
Yeah, in a way, and it's either gonna be a Groundhog Day or you run the thing the way you want it. And this is where the clarity comes in with astrology. I've been making decisions and choices of astrology since I've started to learn it, and I always find myself to be in the right place in the right time, even when I don't feel like it. You know? So the synchronicity is not just how you feel about it. It's more like it is what it is, but can you understand the lessons behind it and the opportunities that unfolds? And if you have the wisdom to see through that, not just using your intuition, but also your intellect, and you marry those two, great plan starts to emerge. And for me, at this point, being a practitioner for so many years, I just trust life and myself, and have a really good relationship in like to take anything that potentially might not be favorable to be something that I can use to elevate myself.
That makes total sense, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I know if you're saying like everything kind of right now is an accumulation the last couple months, which I can attest to that because man, the last part of April was so what's the word I want to say? It was so enlightening in the sense I got a lot of clarity from a lot of confusion and like thing and patterns I've had for a long, long time in my life. They've really showed up very clear, and I was able to discern and recognize, what am I learning for that, and why have I pulled that into my existence time and time again. So it really has been a very profound April for sure, and moving into May. So that's why I was really excited to come together today and really kind of, go down this path of what's really going to be happening in May and the energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sometimes, what I think's going to happen or what I think it's, what's going to eventuate is not what eventuates, but uh, there were things that happened that I might not even be aware of or influences that, brought me to the conclusion where I go, oh, okay, this is the new scenario, or this is
Mm.
the thing that I need to be more involved with, which I couldn't see, like you're saying 3 months ago, I thought of it differently. But
Yeah.
uh, anyway, so that's I'm open to being flexible and having it revealed to me as time goes on.
I think that's all we can do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's feedback. Hmm. And it's also interesting at the end of April, like every planet is actually moving forward. It's all
Okay.
direct, so it's intense. Everything's just moving, yeah. And
Yeah.
and then the 5th of May, that's when Pluto is going to retrograde, right? So again, we are going back to reflect at some point after all those things that's unfolding. I think vital in May is really all about stepping in this new identity and then continue to do the work of peeling the layers. Because when Pluto goes into retrograde, again, we are peeling the layers. Is our desires what we actually want? And over the course of the Pluto retrogression, it's gonna feel like it's gonna take a couple of months in it, right? But the point if with Pluto retrogression is really understanding, where is our limitations and what do we feel weak about, rather than avoiding it. Can we actually look through it, right? And what I really want to say about moving forward in May, as we arrive to May 18, that's when the Sun Uranus conjunction happens. And this is a day of illumination, new awakening, and new opening and insights about your blind spots, as well as really quick and speedy shift that can really happen in our lives.
Wow, interesting because that's actually going to be a day of 2 days of family energy, the 18th and 19th.
So what you're talking about happening is it can happen within that family energy, which is feeling of kinship, people united, common goals, and mankind. And then earlier you said when the retrograde happens, May 5th and 6th, guess what? We're in regrouping energy. That's exactly what you just described. It's a consolidation time, gaining insights, and learning from your experiences. So it's tracking pretty well. The insight that I have about family, as you were discussing the astrological influence, was that, oh, okay, so maybe that illumination is, within that area. What are my feelings of family? Or like, oh, this is how I think of family, or I need to think of it this way, or I've changed my concepts in those areas.
When you gravitate towards trust, life moves with more grace and ease. One way is staying in the now and mastering your inner world, those psychic perceptions that show up through feelings, knowings, hearing, and seeing. If you are ready for more clarity for your direction in life, by honoring your time and trust, check out the link in the show notes for our next Intuition Now Masterclass, where we explore your inner abilities and support you in getting your own answers and start trusting in yourself.
Yeah, I mean, Uranus is definitely our non-biological family,
Okay.
right? Community, and it's interesting that during that day, the moon trines this signature, and the moon is very close to Pluto. So in the family realm, definitely it's where the moon is, and I guess we are called to find some sense of belonging, during this time. And with Taurus is really about, are we hanging out with people of the same values, or are we just trying to fit in with people that we have different values with, right? And I think just even my own personal life just recently, because my grandmother passed recently, and I have this experience of coming home with my family and seeing the extended family, and I was like, okay, this is my biological family, and it troubles me a little bit to sense that I don't really know them.
Hmm.
And it's just insane because it's just that we have different values, different life, and what I really appreciate about the previous generations, because there's less globalization, there's no internet, so people were close knitted back then
Hmm.
about who they were being with, and I could see that they don't see each other for 20, 30 years and they can come back together like big family, right? Even though if they don't really know each other, just having that kinship of a biological proximity, even if they're not bloodly related, just neighbors, there's some level of familial energy and sense of belonging around these people,
Hmm.
and I kind of appreciate that, and it just make me question about, whoa, I live in a completely different generation, and my idea of family is different because of technology, right? And
Yeah.
Uranus is technology. So, how are we connecting and reconnecting with each other these days? What is family? I think with technology, we are forced to redefine what family means to us and what it means to have a sense of belonging that really aligns with our values. Because if we try to fit ourselves in communities that go against our values, we are diminishing our authenticity and holding ourselves back. And trying to fit ourselves in, we are surrendering and destroying our authenticity, which basically um, making feel like we are wrong. But there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with connecting with an international and more global family, or being part of your own bloodline and your own close proximity type of family. So I guess whatever it is, I think this moment is a time where can we really honor our true values and put ourselves in a place where we truly belong.
Yeah, I know for myself, I'm to a point where I really can't even be around people that I have no connection with. Like there's no time for it. And it's really interesting because, like, well, at work, we're all different, right? And then, yeah, really, it's like there's just no time for people that are outside of, quality time with those that I care about.
Well, that family energy is having common goals, mankind, people united, feeling of kinship. And I notice that when I'm in business, in the family energy, there's opportunities kind of come up to make me feel I have a little more, we have those common goals. What strikes me about my biological family is that, as a spiritual person, I believe that, and I feel that I've chose my family. And yeah, we're all different people in this kind of big family that I've got at different levels of consciousness, but there's a commonality in the habits and attitudes that we picked up from the people that came before us. So we have that in common. And we may be more closer in vibration than we think we are. So anyway, I think that's really the key for me. I might not like everything one of my relatives does, or can't relate to some of the things they do, but usually there is a commonality in how they look at things or think of things, and maybe they've taken it to an extreme, and I've taken it to less of an extreme, or vice versa. So that all makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I think that's what we hear you saying, right, Chiron? That with your family came together, even though many hadn't seen each other or neighbors in maybe a couple decades or so, but there's a commonality that they all really share.
100%, 100%. And I think this shifts as technology shifts. And, it's interesting to see that every generations after us, we think really radically differently, with one another. And it's insane because I feel old now.
Right.
Yeah,
And you're
it's funny
not.
how it happens.
I'm not. It's crazy.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I
I think
think
one
it's
thing
all,
I
yeah.
should mention as well with Uranus is also the idea of collaboration,
Hmm.
and not just trying to do business by yourself, but with each other. And eventually, the more you can give the community, the more of a person of value you can actually be as a person, and sharing that with your community, it comes back to you, right? So community is definitely currency. I think this is the energy to really think who are your allies, and can you partner up, work together, and actually get to your common goal.
That feels really good. Well, what else is coming in the middle or towards the end of May?
So the next day, I think, wait, May 25th. I was talking about May 18th just now. May 25th, we have a Uranus Mercury conjunction, and that's a very important connection because Uranus is the higher mind, and Mercury, I won't call it the lower mind, but it's the logistical, everyday thing, kind of planner, like part of you, right? So when those two come together, it's really like a chance to re strategize things, but it's also a chance to speed things up. And it's also a chance where new ventures can happen, where we can be intellectually stimulated or actually downloading a new vision, completely new, right? The whole thing. And it's a beautiful time because it's a series of activation, because right after that, um, Saturn moves into Aries finally, right, for good, and it's gonna be there for another 2.5 years, right? And then right after that will be a new moon in in Gemini, and then right after that we have a Sun Mercury conjunction. So it's like a back to back in the last week of big activation in the planets. I'll say that if there's a time to take a leap, is this end of the month, right? And it's like a springboard from the universe, and you
Interesting.
might as well take it.
Because if you don't, next time it comes around,
It doesn't.
right,
You
that's a
it's
thing.
missed opportunity. So it's not a time to hold back. It's really time to just put yourself out there, get yourself be seen and be visible.
Interesting. Interesting, huh, Tom?
Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, so
Well, you talked about at the last week. I heard you talk about three kind of shifts that we're going to go through. So guess what? We start out with direction, then we go to friendship, and then
Mm.
orientation. And orientation is usually that energy. Like if you're moving into a new area, there's a feeling of newness. So the shifts are taking place that last week that you're talking about. Like there's the time, and then you probably find yourself in that energy of orientation's perfect to have made that shift because you're going to get the facts, a feeling of newness. Things are going to be different. So cool how it kind of relates.
It so does. That's why I love doing this episode every month.
Yeah, it's a new normal, going into the end of May. I mean, think about it. Like April is like this whole shake up. March is like the entire letting go and revising your whole entire identity. For you to be prepared for what's coming in May, and May is just like things just happening, and this
Hmm.
consolidation in May that's gonna lead up to something, into a new normal that's gonna come through. So, like I said, like I mentioned just now, with the whole tariff wars and stuff like that in the global scene, some a bigger conclusion is gonna happen by the end of May, early June, and just to foreshadow a little bit after that, because the first week of June, Jupiter is gonna move into Cancer, right? And that
Interesting.
and that's again is gonna be something big and something huge as we step into a completely different energy. And that energy is going to square the Saturn Neptune conjunction that's going to come as well in June. But basically, the beginning of June is just completely new. New energy, new life, new role, new responsibility, new milestones that people are going to hit. And, with all this new great expansion that's coming through, there's definitely greater responsibility around it. So we might not like it. And sometimes the reason why we are not as successful as we think we are because we are afraid of the bigger responsibility that we have with all the expansion and desires that we want.
Yeah.
Want a
Getting it all
kid?
done.
Whoa, better be a good parent, man. You want a good business? And oh my God, there's more responsibility. Is that I don't think there's like a freedom in a sense where we are just chill, right? And we get all the fruits of life. No, it all comes with effort and stuff.
And showing up,
Yeah.
which is hard sometimes, right? Because you're right.
Hard.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of pieces
Yeah.
to the puzzle.
Yeah. You got to take responsibility because if you don't, you're not actually going to get what you want. We are not kids anymore.
Right, right. Wow, what a month. So
Hmm.
let's go back a little bit and just chat about. So the keyword was vital and the energy. It feels to me like it's a life, like a life, energy that I need to be really fully aware and embracing what's going to be happening in May. What about for you, Chiron?
I'm thinking about sustaining my life energy and also elevating it so that I can have more and experience more in life. Because if you were to expand on the external side of things, you better expand in your health. You can have all the great things in the world, but if you're not expanding your health, like, what's the point? You're not gonna enjoy it. You're gonna
Hmm.
suffer. You're gonna feel painful, and then it's like taking more than you can chew. So just be mindful of that. That's what I felt is what's calling me to speak about.
Mm, that feels good. What about you, Tom?
Well, from April, the keyword is charge, right? So,
Hmm.
like, charge full steam ahead, just keep doing the things, which we've been pretty much doing in all these areas that I'm starting to clean up and get accomplished. Well, a few big things happened for us early in the month that we
Hmm.
got organized. And now I'm back into May, and it's like it feels like to me that that things are like, okay, this is vital. I need this. This got to pump. My heart's got to be good. But I don't need all this other stuff. I just need this. I'm coming right down to what's vital for me. And fulfillment is vital for the soul. There has to be some fulfillment for us to want to carry on and go on and move on. That's what occurred to me when you were sharing earlier.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with what you shared, the word focus come to me, and the second word comes to me is essential. Focus on the essential. You can't just
Yeah.
grab onto everything. Because if you try to speak to everybody, you speak to no one. You try to do everything, you end up doing nothing.
Absolutely. So on that note, I guess that's a good place to kind of wrap it up and give great thanks for the teamwork and for all of you listeners out there and watchers and Chiron. We appreciate you so much coming on and sharing some energetic influences around May.
Yeah.
Likewise, I truly appreciate the space to be able to share my knowledge and wisdom, and thank you for all the listeners to be tuning in to this episode.
So just hang on a moment there, everybody, and we'll be back hopefully next month.
Next
Unless
month.
the world blows up. No.
Oh, we'll be
And,
back.
and we want to again give great thanks to all of you guys out there listening. And remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey. To keep the enthusiasm going, please like, subscribe, or comment below. We would love to hear from you.